You are not behind in life. You are not early. You are not lost. You are standing exactly at the point where awareness begins. Most people never question this. They move through their days as if life is a straight line. Birth at one end, death at the other, everything in between reduced to deadlines, regrets, and survival. But every so often, a quiet thought slips through the noise and asks something dangerous. What if this isn't the beginning? And what if it isn't the end either? Imagine waking up from a dream that felt more real than your waking life. Your emotions were vivid. Your fears felt absolute. And then, suddenly, you open your eyes and realize none of it was permanent. Now ask yourself something unsettling. What if this life is closer to the dream, and what we call death is the awakening? This idea has unsettled people for thousands of years, not because it is dark, but because it removes fear's greatest weapon, finality. Across cultures, philosophies, and spiritual traditions, there is a recurring whisper that consciousness does not vanish. It transitions, it changes states, it steps out of form the way a diver breaks the surface of water and inhales. If that were true, everything would change. Your pain would not be meaningless, your choices would not be random, and your existence would not be an accident. What we call death would not be a collapse, but a release. Many imagine that the moment life ends, all questions are answered instantly, that peace arrives automatically, that confusion disappears. But awareness does not work like a switch. It works like a dawn. When the body is left behind, consciousness does not rush forward. It pauses. There is an adjustment, an interval where identity loosens its grip on form, a space beyond clocks and calendars, where urgency dissolves and the noise of the physical world fades. Some experience clarity immediately, others carry echoes of fear, guilt, or attachment with them, like emotional gravity that takes time to release, not because they are punished, but because awareness unfolds at different depths. In this state, nothing is imposed. There is no external judgment, no cosmic courtroom, only understanding. And this is where something profound begins. The soul looks back, not to condemn itself, but to see clearly for the first time. Life is revisited not as a sequence of events, but as waves of impact. Every word spoken, every silence chosen, every moment of courage or avoidance, not observed from the outside, but felt from every perspective involved. You don't just remember what you did, you experience what it caused. This is not suffering. This is truth without distortion. It is here that many realize something uncomfortable. Growth was never meant to be painless. The greatest transformations were hidden inside moments that once felt like mistakes, losses, or failures. What mattered was not perfection, but awareness, and this realization carries weight. Because if consciousness continues, then responsibility deepens. Every choice echoes, not as punishment, but as learning, not as debt, but as balance. The soul does not ask, was I good? It asks, was I honest with my potential? This is where many misunderstand the nature of purpose. Purpose is not comfort. It is not happiness without friction. It is expansion, and expansion requires contrast. A consciousness that never struggles cannot strengthen. A being that never faces resistance cannot know its own depth. So growth does not come from ease. It comes from experience, especially the ones we would never choose from a place of fear, which leads to a difficult truth most people resist. Not all pain is random, and not all hardship is meaningless. From a wider perspective, challenge becomes instruction. This does not mean suffering should be glorified. It means it can be used. When awareness sees clearly, even wounds become teachers. Even loss becomes direction. Even confusion becomes a signal pointing toward what remains unfinished. This is why reflection matters now, not later. If consciousness reviews life with clarity beyond emotion, then awareness during life becomes powerful. Every moment becomes an opportunity to align rather than react, to choose consciously rather than drift. Ask yourself this, not with guilt, but with curiosity. If you could observe your life from a higher vantage point right now, what patterns would you notice repeating? What fears keep returning in different disguises? What moments of truth do you keep postponing? These questions are not meant to judge you. They are meant to wake you up. Because awakening does not begin after life. It begins when awareness interrupts autopilot. And here is where many people become uncomfortable, because awakening dissolves excuses. It removes the illusion that life is simply happening to you. It suggests that something deeper within you is actively participating, not consciously remembered, but deeply felt. Which raises the next question, one that changes everything. If consciousness continues, if growth is intentional, if awareness chooses expansion over comfort, then what if this life was not assigned to you, but chosen? And if that were true, what does it mean about where you were born, who you were born to, and the challenges that shaped you before you ever had words to describe them? That is where the story truly begins. And in the next session, we will explore why your origins were not random, and why the very circumstances you question most may be the key to understanding what your soul came here to learn. If this life was chosen rather than assigned, then the question becomes unavoidable. Why this beginning? Why this family? Why this body? Why this environment? With all its limits and contradictions. From the surface, it's easy to believe that birth is random, a biological coincidence, a roll of the dice. But randomness collapses under awareness. When viewed through a wider lens, patterns appear where chaos once seemed absolute. From the perspective of consciousness, origin is strategy. Before identity hardens into a name, a gender, a nationality, or a role, awareness looks for conditions that will activate growth, not comfort, not ease, growth. This is where many people resist the idea, because it confronts the most sensitive area of all, family. People often judge their origins through emotional memory alone. They remember what hurt, what was missing, what felt unfair. And from that viewpoint, it seems impossible to believe that anything meaningful could exist beneath the wounds. But consciousness does not choose conditions based on how they will feel. It chooses them based on what they will awaken. Some environments teach safety, others teach resilience. Some teach love through abundance, others teach it through absence. From the surface, these lives look unequal. From within awareness, they are different classrooms. This does not excuse harm. It does not romanticize pain. It simply recognizes that meaning and morality are not the same thing. Harm can be real and still become material for awakening. Many of the traits you struggle with today were forged early. Sensitivity, guardedness, hyper-awareness, emotional distance, or an unshakable drive to prove something you cannot name. These did not appear randomly. They were responses, and responses shape consciousness. Some people are born into stability to learn confidence and trust. Others are born into instability to learn strength, independence, or discernment. Some are surrounded by affection to learn openness. Others face emotional absence to learn self-sufficiency, or to eventually break cycles that have repeated for generations. From the outside, this can look cruel. From within awareness, it is precise. The family system becomes the first mirror consciousness looks into. It reflects patterns that will later reappear in relationships, careers, friendships, and inner dialogue. until they are recognized. This is why the same emotional themes tend to repeat in different forms. Different people, different settings, same feeling. Because the lesson isn't external, it's internal, and awareness does not stop with family. The place you were born carries meaning too. Culture shapes identity before thought begins. It defines what is praised, what is feared, what is considered normal, and what is suppressed. To be born into a particular culture is to inherit an invisible rule book long before you question it. Some environments teach obedience, some teach survival, some teach competition, some teach endurance, and some souls arrive specifically to feel constrained so they can eventually expand. If you have ever felt like you didn't fully belong where you were born, if you sensed friction between who you are and the values around you, that tension may not be a mistake. It may be the point. Awareness grows fastest under contrast. Consciousness sharpens when it meets resistance. Many who later challenge systems, ideas, or beliefs begin life inside them, not outside. You cannot question a structure you have never felt. This extends even to time itself. You were not born in this era by accident. Every generation carries unfinished business, collective patterns seeking resolution, old beliefs waiting to be challenged, new ways of thinking struggling to emerge. Some arrive to preserve, others arrive to disrupt. If you feel overwhelmed by the pace of change, the noise, the contradictions of the modern world, it may be because your awareness is tuned to see cracks others ignore. And that perception is not a burden, it is an invitation. But here is where people misunderstand the idea of a plan. They imagine a rigid script, a destiny that cannot be altered, a life where free will is an illusion. This belief quietly disempowers them. But awareness does not operate that way. Think of it not as a script, but as a map. The map shows possible terrain, mountains of challenge, valleys of rest, crossroads of choice, but it does not force a direction. It offers options. You still choose how to respond. Free will is not canceled by meaning, it is amplified by it. You can ignore patterns, delay lessons, avoid truths, and consciousness will not punish you for it. It will simply present the lesson again, through a different face, a different circumstance, a different season. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is permanent. Even deviation becomes instruction. This is why no one is ever truly off path. There are only longer routes and shorter ones, clear choices and fogged ones, but all movement contributes to awareness. This realization shifts responsibility, but not as blame. It returns authorship to you. You are not here to fulfill expectations imposed from outside. You are here to become aware enough to choose alignment from within. Sometimes alignment means leaving what is familiar. Sometimes it means staying and transforming how you relate to it. Sometimes it means forgiving. Sometimes it means walking away without resentment. Awareness does not demand dramatic action. It demands honest perception, and when perception sharpens, something else becomes visible, something many people mistake for coincidence, certain encounters, people who feel strangely familiar, conversations that unfold as if already in progress, connections that feel charged, not always comfortable, but significant. These are not always meant to last. Some arrive to awaken something. Some arrive to challenge you. Some arrive to close cycles that began long before memory. Not every deep connection is meant to stay, but every meaningful one is meant to teach. In the next session, we will explore these encounters, why some relationships feel destined, why others feel disruptive, and how consciousness recognizes familiarity beyond logic. And if this reflection resonates, If you feel something stirring rather than something being explained, consider subscribing now, not out of habit, but because what comes next may answer questions you've felt but never fully formed. Some people enter your life quietly, others arrive like a disruption, and a few feel as if they were never truly strangers at all. You meet them, and something in you reacts before thought forms. There is no logic behind it, no clear reason, just a sensation, recognition, resistance, gravity, or an unexplainable familiarity. Most people try to rationalize these moments. They call them coincidence, chemistry, luck, or fate. But awareness recognizes a deeper pattern. Not every meaningful connection is meant to bring comfort. Some arrive to activate unfinished parts of you, others to reflect what you have avoided seeing, and some to walk beside you only long enough to complete a specific chapter. This is why intensity alone is not a measure of permanence. Some of the most powerful connections are temporary by design. Consciousness does not always reunite to stay. It reunites to awaken. Certain relationships feel effortless at first, then suddenly difficult. Others begin with friction and evolve into depth. Some leave you changed even if they end quickly, and some remain steady and quiet, supporting you without dramatic transformation. Each serves a different purpose. The mistake many people make is searching for one connection to fulfill everything, to heal, complete, save, and define them. That expectation places weight no relationship can carry. Awareness does not seek completion through another, it seeks reflection. There are connections that feel like mirrors. They reveal patterns you haven't resolved. There are connections that feel like anchors. They offer stability while you grow. And there are connections that feel like catalysts. They disrupt your identity so something more honest can emerge. None are accidents, and not all are meant to last forever. Some souls intersect briefly to exchange lessons, then separate without resentment. Others return repeatedly across different forms, friends, rivals, partners, family, until balance is restored. When a connection challenges you deeply, ask not whether it is meant to stay, but what it is meant to teach. Does it push you toward clarity or confusion? Does it encourage growth or dependence? Does it bring you closer to yourself or further away? These questions matter more than labels. Awareness recognizes alignment not through comfort, but through expansion. This also applies to loss. When someone leaves, through distance, change, or death, the mind searches for meaning and often finds only absence. But consciousness understands that not all separations are endings. Some are transitions. Energy does not disappear. Bonds do not dissolve instantly. What changes is form, not connection. Grief hurts because attachment resists transformation. Love hurts because it does not know where to go when form is gone. But awareness knows that connection exists beyond visibility. Nothing meaningful is wasted. And just as relationships are chosen with intention, so are challenges. This is one of the hardest truths to accept. Some lives are heavier than others. Some people face illness, loss, limitation, or injustice early and repeatedly. From the surface, this looks cruel and unfair, and emotionally, it often is. But from the perspective of consciousness, difficulty is not always imposed. It is sometimes embraced, not because suffering is desirable, but because growth under resistance accelerates awareness. Some consciousnesses choose intensity because they are capable of carrying it, not because they are punished, but because they are strong. This does not invalidate pain, it contextualizes it. It reminds you that hardship does not define your worth. It reveals your capacity. Those who endure deeply often awaken compassion, depth, and insight others never develop. They become anchors of presence, points of stability. quiet forces of transformation, not because they sought hardship, but because they learned to extract meaning from it. If your path has felt heavier than most, that weight may be shaping something rare within you. And now comes the most empowering realization of all. Nothing binds you permanently. Not your past, not your mistakes, not your conditioning, not even your original plan. Awareness evolves. Free will remains. At every moment, you are co-creating with your own consciousness. You're not here to perfectly execute a script. You are here to respond with honesty, presence, and courage. Even delays serve understanding. Even detours enrich perception. Even resistance teaches discernment. There is no version of your life where awareness is wasted. This is why comparison is so destructive. The mind compares timelines, achievements, progress. But consciousness does not measure growth in milestones. It measures depth. Someone who awakens slowly but sincerely may evolve further than someone who advances quickly without awareness. There is no universal pace. Everything blooms when conditions align. If you feel behind, question who is measuring. If you feel lost, ask whether you are simply between identities. If you feel disconnected, consider whether you are shedding an old self. Transitions feel like emptiness before they feel like clarity. And here is the truth most people never hear. You're not here to become someone else. You're here to remember who you already are beneath conditioning. Your intuition, your values, your sensitivity, your discomfort with superficial paths, your pull toward meaning. These are not flaws. They are signals that awareness is active. And if awareness is active, then this moment matters, not because it determines everything, but because it shapes what comes next. The universe does not demand perfection. It responds to sincerity. Each conscious choice, however small, realigns you. Each moment of honesty strengthens coherence. Each act of courage clarifies direction. You do not need to know the entire path. You only need to recognize the next truthful step. And when doubt appears, as it always does, remember this. Your consciousness has navigated transitions before. It has adapted to form. It has endured forgetting. It has survived confusion. It knows how to move forward even when the mind hesitates. Trust does not mean certainty. It means willingness. And willingness is enough. Now, take a moment and reflect. What part of this journey resonated most with you? Was it the idea of choice, of purpose, of connection, of challenge? Write it in the comments, not for others, but to make it real for yourself.